Your seat, can you please take your seat? Alrighty, kia ora tātou. Welcome everyone. We'll get started. So I've got apologies, Councillor Stacey Scott. I'll move that from the chair. Oh, sorry, I'll add my apologies, Gay Broker from Te Muka Community Board. Add that, thank you. Councillor Oliver, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Conflicts of interest? Any conflicts with either public or PX? No, alrighty. Welcome everyone. I've got quite an agenda to get through. Welcome everyone from the Rangitata for the campground paper. Just what I might do, because there's some interest in that, I might just move things around a little bit. So we'll just go to the, get through the first few reports, and then I'll bring the Rangitata Huts Reserve Camping Ground forward. So if we go to 4.1, which is minutes, the council meeting held on 4th of Feb 2025. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Pye, yeah.
I just had a question on them too, sorry. At resolution 9.4, under 9.4, we had an action about a new financial system, but it doesn't seem to be a report, or it's not on the action list for.
Okay, yeah.
It's resolution 2, 2025/8. Other than that, I'm happy to move.
Okay, cool. Make that amendment, thanks. And seconder for the minutes, thank you, Councillor Burt. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Move to 5.1 on page 17. Schedule of functions attended by the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and councillors. Thank you, Councillor Shannon, for attending the flower show. Good flower show, isn't it? Yep. You happy to move that? No worries. Someone over here would like to second that. Thank you, Councillor Parker. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Schedule of functions attended by Chief Executive on page 19. I'm here to move that from the chair. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Jackson. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Main reports now. We're going to go to 6.1, which is fixing of the common seal. Can I have a mover for that one, please? Thank you, Councillor Shannon. Councillor Oliver, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Alrighty, so we'll get to substantive business. So I'm going to move forward now. We're going to move to 6.7, which is the Rangitata Huts Reserve Camping Ground. That is on page 91. And welcome Nicole and Andrew.
Thank you very much, and through the chair, councillors, good afternoon, and community board members. So our paper here for Rangitata Reserves Camping Ground is to bring you to the table some options. There was a previous paper where you requested that we go away and actually have a look at an above ground system, and we did do that and have since worked with the previous leasee and now the new leasee that has a self-contained camp. So what we've done is redone the numbers. We've been out there, we've had a contractor look at above ground systems, how we fix all below ground systems, and the reports are with you. I think at this stage it's really a discussion we need to have and then a decision as to where you would like to go, bearing in mind that any cost is borne by the ratepayer. So I leave that with you. I'm quite happy to look at more contractors to get us a variation if there's any changes to those numbers, but they are very credible in where they've come from, and you have that opportunity to move the numbers up and down in regards to the users on the campground. So I think I'll leave it there. I'll open the floor to the questions and discussion with councillors, if I may.
Yeah, cool. And so one of the things, obviously, we're trying to move with some of these, we're getting feedback. Oh, no, it's better. Around not necessarily full user pays, but less subsidisation of some of these activities. Just for equity terms, can you just give some comments on what we are paying, and obviously we've got the cost for the last few years associated with Rangitata, but the likes of Winchester Point and Temuka is probably slightly different, but are other camping grounds?
Sorry, through the chair, there are other camping grounds are on a lease situation. We don't pay anything towards them, so we're actually receiving an income from all of those other campgrounds. Pleasant Point is the only one that is still with us at this time, and there is interest for that one to be leased as a whole. So the Rangitata campground was under a lease situation and is now under a self-contained. Yeah.
Could you just clarify that we don't pay any operational expenses, but we do pay capital expenses, don't we?
Yes,
we just have for Winchester.
Yes, yeah. And we do keep that on a reasonably low amount, so it'll be fresh tar seal in some of them, but ablution blocks for the Winchester, which has just been replaced. But outside of that, we have quite a low, no OPEX, but a very, very low capital over the years, yes.
Councillor Puddington.
I guess the council's faced the reality of user pays and costs that are growing, and things we traditionally couldn't do in the past, we can't do now. But I thought the conversation last year was moving to self-contained sites where people could use the campground, quick mow of the lawn and it's done, because 450k unbudgeted for a campground, I don't think, obviously the people out there are passionate, but I don't think the broader ratepayer base can see value for money in that when you can have self-contained caravans and other things out there. I just Googled it, 19 minutes, 23 k's from the Winchester campground to the Rangitata huts. I'm just not in favour of spending more money when there's no return on that. And we have no numbers of the numbers of caravans that go out there, how many are self-contained, how many aren't, and it's just, I guess, an expense I don't think the ratepayers can bear at this stage.
Councillor Shannon.
Thank you, Nigel. Just some more clarification questions, actually exploring a bit more about what me and Nigel was saying. In terms of other similar sized operations around the district and outside of the district, do you know of any and how they operate? And also I'd like to know a bit more about the northern side camping ground within I think it's the Ashburton district, isn't it? What's happening there in terms of options for fishermen and campers and the likes, and what costs are involved there too, if you know them, please?
Apologies, I don't have that information at hand, really, Ashburton, though it is of a similar size to us, but I will actually return with some further details, so apologies, I haven't got that information at hand. But in regards to other similar campgrounds, coastal, I think outside of the northern and ourselves, we'd really be further down towards Dunedin. I'm not aware of anything down, having lived in that area on the coast, and then you'd be further up towards Christchurch, and then it's really the huts more than a camping ground scenario. So it's a little bit of a one-off. I mean, from the South Island there are lots of other examples, and West Coast, etc. I don't want to speak, I'm not just going to make some assumptions for you, unfortunately, but we will find out a little bit more from the Ashburton, but it is managed by the Ashburton District Council. They have a campground scenario there, but it looks to be online when I've looked at it a little bit smaller. It doesn't have the amount of huts that we've got, but there is a camping scenario there. Yeah, there is.
Councillor Oliver.
Just with the current situation of the camping ground, is there a restriction of time of how long you're allowed to be at the camping ground for currently, or is it just open for as long as you like, or how's that?
So currently and traditionally, this campground has actually been a seasonal summer, opening up on the Labour weekend and through and closing after Easter. If there has been any occupation after that, we've not been aware of that. So usually the caravans are packed up for that winter season, and it is not an all year round, though there is nothing impeding or stopping that from happening from a self-contained situation. It's just traditionally this has been a summer campground.
Your question is more in regard to, is there a term whereby 3 or 4 days, et cetera, under the blue-green sticker? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that as well. So under the blue-green sticker, it's 3 days normally, and most. So, is that what's happening out there, or what? How's that working?
Yeah, so at the moment it's working under the recently changed regulations for freedom camping, and so that the vehicles need to have the ability to hold 3 days worth of water, wastewater and grey water before they can, or then have to leave, offload the discharge the water and come back.
And how's that being looked after, and who's looking after and doing the checks and balances and all the rest of it?
So there is a manager in place, a local hut holder that's been managing that, but our camping camping inspectors have found that there are vehicles in there that have not been stickered properly, and so are not supposed to be in there.
So we have a lease agreement with somebody who is a hut holder, and that is to run through this summer season, and the agreement is for self-contained. We were made aware on some of the first checks with our environment department that some caravans hadn't had that sticker, but I was made aware that they were looking to do that. It was just there was an issue with getting the person available, and that was going to happen during the January time. So we haven't had any further updates to say whether that happened, and we haven't had any further updates from the team, downstairs environment team, to say that the scenario isn't working or any further breaches, but we'll follow that up for you.
And just quickly, what's the current cost? Is there a charge at the moment, or is it free, or is the leasee taking money, or how's that working?
So we have a base lease agreement amount as per the reserves and some of the previous costs. To actually get it open, we decided to work on a very, very low dollar amount to allow the campground to open so that nobody was going to miss out on that opportunity. The leasee is taking all of the costs. So they set the fees and they collect those funds, and they do retain them as per the previous leasee. Yes.
Yeah, Michelle.
Nicole, obviously we've had quite a lot of consultation meetings, back and forward correspondence with both the hut holders and the campground holders. And, you know, council were focused on finding a solution, and this wasn't the perfect solution, but it was a solution. So have you had, I've seen a little bit of commentary, I looked at the start of the season on Facebook, but have you had some feedback, or have you had a meeting with the campground lease holder to see how the season went and what the issues are, and did it work, and would they do it again, that, you know, kind of thing, or is this a, yep, thanks for trying but didn't work scenario?
The lease agreement is still in play. It will be in play until after Easter. So we're actually only a couple of months into that lease, and so we haven't had that conversation yet, but every intention to do that. We haven't heard back from the current leasee to say that she's not happy with what's happening there, but as I said, it was a late season opening, so we were mid-December, and so we're only a couple of months. So this was really to get everybody, allow everybody to use that summer season over the Christmas, which was the real key to the campground being operational. After that, it is really people coming and going for those summer weekends or holidays, and then Easter is the next big shoulder. Yep.
So, and there's benefits to council in that campground being operational one way or the other, in that we don't have to maintain lawns and things like that.
Yeah. So the leasee is taking care of all of those at the moment. That's part of the lease agreement. And as I said, we did not want to leave this as an open freedom campground, and listening to the feedback from those hut holders and those that use the campground, they wanted to see something open, but given the constraints we had with the system being broken, this was the only thing we could do. And then, as per the previous paper and where we are now, is explore, is this going to work going forward for the rest of the time, or should we explore an above ground, or below ground, but then the key question is who's going to pay for it?
Another question I see in one of the options is to proceed with self-contained designated site with the removal of old buildings and assets not required. Why have you recommended that? Why could we not leave those buildings there or just lock them up or repurpose them or
So
something? Why would we remove
We're
them?
really, that's the old ablution blocks that are there. And if we were deciding that permanently it went forward as a self-contained site, then we've got some underground, the chambers where the previous pits were. We'd need to really open those and fill them in.
I get the pits, but I don't understand why we would get rid of the building in such a hurry.
Well, we don't have to. We don't have to do anything straight away, but I think in time, if we went to a permanent, then you've got buildings that will just decay over time, so there'll be a point where we're better off to actually remove them from site, but it's not an immediate.
Sorry. So just so we're clear, the current leaseholder is leasing it for $1?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a very low amount, yes.
Saving
Yeah.
us a lot of
Yeah,
money.
yeah, no, I get that. And they mow the lawns and do whatever.
Yes, they do.
I thought this was really about whether we put a septic tank system in. So, because the other discussion, I think, is once their season is finished, whether it's worked for them, what problems they had or otherwise, and whether we feel at $1, being that we will have to maintain other assets out there, I presume, at some time. I'd like, what have we budgeted for maintenance of those assets type thing. I'm happy for the campground to remain, and if $1 a week's the way it's going, that's fine. But, I just think self-contained's the way to go to lower the cost to the ratepayer.
Yeah, so what I might do is I'll bring you to, it hasn't technically asked us for a decision, but I think it would be helpful for us to make a decision. So if we go to 91 and 92, we go through the options. First option, proceed with above ground septic tank, ongoing costs, significant cost to set up. Bearing in mind under the previous leasee, we had $10,000 to assist with this sort of things. Any of this is going to be unbudgeted. Option 2 is for the full replacement, again, unbudgeted. Realistically, we're not in the situation to do either of those, so by default it goes to option 3. I think everyone's probably of the view on making an assumption that it stays open for well, actually we're not making a decision on it opening or not. We're just basically ratifying the status quo, if you like, which is in play now, and officers can go in and discuss those leases at the end of the season. But is everyone comfortable with option 3, which is proceed with self-contained designated site? I think we can scrap the removal of the buildings and assets, and this is the most cost-effective. Any discussion around that? Yeah.
Sorry, I am reluctantly supportive. I'll probably challenge your unbudgeted because it would come into next year, and if we wanted to put it in the budget, we could. But I have a huge amount of sympathy for those campground users out there. I've met with a lot of them a number of times, and I get their sense of community and what this has ended up doing to that sense of community. However, given my responsibility to all ratepayers, I do support option 3, albeit reluctantly.
Yeah, look, and just for context, most people won't know, but we are literally going through line by line, and we're not to our budgets, and we're not adding any new expenditure. So if there were a future request, it might be considered in the future, but I don't see that in the next few years, to be fair. I'm happy to move option 3 with the changes, taking out the removal of old buildings and assets. I think it's still an open conversation around what could happen there in the future, but there's no council budget. I would like to see that 10,000 maybe just set aside and maintained within budget, so that can be utilised in the future if that be the case. That doesn't need to be part of the motion. Yep, Councillor Parker.
And probably doesn't need to be part of the resolution, but that we get some feedback after Easter, please, so we know how how it's happening.
Yeah, cool. Happy to second it. Any further discussion in regard to that? No? Okay, I will put the motion now. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So just as a follow-up from that, go for it, Michelle. Sorry, Nicole. So apologies.
Sorry, by the chair, also for the people in the room, there is that opportunity that we do have the overall camp reserve management plan that's coming up, which does have commentary. So they have that ability to still make comment and feed through whilst we see out the rest of this season, and I get that opportunity to talk to the leasee.
Sorry, can I just add to that? Because my understanding is that letter only went to hut holders and maybe one or two that would been liaising with the campground. So if there's a way that any member of the camping community can let Nicole know on how to share that more widely, that would be useful.
Yeah, if we can get something out on the notice boards and what have you as well.
It was my understanding that the person that's leading the camp users has access to the Facebook page. We can't do that straight through, but if they're more than willing to push that out through there, then absolutely we have that opportunity to hear from everybody via that consultancy process as well. Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty, any further discussion? No? Okay, we will move now back to 6.2, so presentation of Venture Timaru Limited Annual Report 23-24. Welcome Nigel and Di. Thanks everyone, see you later. Thanks for attending. Oh, Erin, welcome. How are you? Didn't see you there. So in your report, we've already been through this, but maybe just touch on a couple of things and then we can move forward to the next one. Yep.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, everybody. The tabling of our annual report, we had a workshop on our annual report and the results back in October, and then had our AGM where the annual report was adopted. So it really is, I think a lot of the questions that would have been asked of us were asked back in our workshop in October as we finalised it, but happy to answer anything that comes up now.
Righty, any questions in regard to the annual report? Yeah, thanks.
One, I see you, in your annual report you had your largest ever cruise ship season with 13 ships. What do you have this season and what are you anticipating the next couple of seasons?
At this stage this season, we've got 9 ships in total. There are 2 more coming next week. We had an extra one added at the last minute. Just because of their variations that happen with the cruise season, they have been smaller vessels to date, but the next 2 are the 2 biggest of the season, and the total passenger capacity is somewhere around 6,500 this season. Booking so far ahead for 25-26 are looking at 13 ships at this stage, the majority of which are the bigger vessels, so they're back a little bit more to what it was like the last season.
Thank you. I just had one question. My next move, as far as funding, is that, do we have much surety of funding around that?
The contract expires on the 30th of June this year. That's the initiative that has been rolled into about 30 locations around the country off the back of what we and Waikato were doing in this space. We've been engaged with 4 of the other providers, engaged with them various ministers. So at this stage, without, potentially impacting it negatively, the soundings are pretty good coming out of the ministry. So it'll be in the budget.
Okay, that's good. Look, I'm happy to move the report from the chair. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Booth. Perfect. Any further questions? No. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. 6.3 on page 59, Venture Timaru Quarterly Report. Pass back to you, Nige.
Thank you very much. Quarterly report for December. We had a discussion, the board and management, and we've provided you a new format that we believe better communicates in a more focused way our work, progress, achievements, work-ons, etc. Dashboard, traffic light system at the start. It also highlights the areas behind it, and we need to and will do better, specifically business attraction. We acknowledge we need to do more in that space, hence the update in the quarterly report around the Make Timaru Your Business campaign and the steps we're taking there. We also provide an update in relation towards 2050. So as at the end of December, we had the initial workshop on that with leaders across the community at the start of November. And as elected members, we appreciate you're busy people, and it's important we make the best use of your time. So now that we've actually got that good level of feedback, which we've summarised at a high level in the report, it's important that we engage with you individually, both as councillors, but also as leaders with your various hats on through the community as well. So thank you to those that have responded already, and if you haven't, we're keen to set up that time with you. I'll also speak, a projected year-end deficit of 128,000 is, as detailed in prior reports, is being met fully from our reserves. However, deficit is likely to be about 60,000 now, as opposed to the 128. There is a slight correction in the financials, but I'm sure in the current environment there'll be some questions relating to our financials, so I'll clarify that then. And we're also pleased, not covered in our quarterly report, but we're pleased to have submitted our statement of intent as at the end, or by the end of last month, informed by the letter of expectation we received from the Mayor earlier last month. And whilst you won't have it yet, I understand it's going to be tabled at your meeting on the 1st of April, and then we have a scheduled workshop specifically to talk to our statement of intent, budgets, etc. for next year. So yeah, I'm happy to field any questions in relation to the quarterly report. As I mentioned, new format, dashboard on the front page, three focuses primarily on what we're doing and going to be doing in attracting new business, and then a summary or what we've been up to with the Towards 2050, as well as the other bits and bobs that sit in there. So happy to field any questions, comments.
No,
and sorry, I just wanted to acknowledge Erin. I was going to say Deputy Chair, but I can't say that at the moment, I don't think. So I'll, one of our board members, as you know.
I don't think your role's changed. You've been Deputy Chair.
Oh, yes,
prior,
true.
So, yeah.
True.
No, look, first comments from me. I love the read. I think it's quite real. It focuses on, what you want to focus on, which is great, and I quite like the new business stuff as well. So, look, it just shows you certainly, certainly been, listening to our, where we're thinking, and I know the board's done a lot of work and acknowledge the work Nigel, you and your team have done as well. So I think it's, quite sniper-like in its approach. So, yeah, I really like the changes. Thank you. But happy to field any questions, team. Councillor Shannon was just a little bit quicker.
Too fast. Echo Mayor Nigel's comments, really. I was actually really excited to read this. Well done. I feel like I've waited a couple of years to actually see some real actions, some plans about delivering on, I suppose, more than just being visionary, actually having some actual actions behind strategies and what have you, and it looks really, really good. The only thing that I thought was perhaps missing in this, and I've got a meeting with Tanya coming up, and I'll talk it through with her. Didn't see a lot in here about the education space, and that was highlighted in there towards 2050 as one of the keys. So I'll talk to her about that. But otherwise, very pleased to see some of this stuff. I've got big circles, and I've waited a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's also about outcomes too, as I'm sure you're after. So we're very focused in that respect. So.
Councillor Pye.
I have three comments and questions, to a little bit controversial, so I'll start with the easy one. The targeted attraction of business events and conferences, how do we do that? Like, do you, I see we've got a side coming to Timaru in May, which is great, the South Island Dairy event, so good to get some farmers to town. My question is, did that land in your lap, or do you actually go, in another organisation I'm involved in, the Economic Development Agency in Christchurch came knocking on our door and said, hey, how about hosting this? Do we do that or not?
We have attempted to do that. A couple of years ago, we signed up and became members of the Business Events Industry Association and attended conference and events and like a trade show to try to get events. Our issue is we do not have hotel capacity of the right level. If you gave me a hotel, we'd be able to fill it.
Looking at the wrong side of the room, sorry, Di. My other one, and I'm not suggesting this for a minute, but I just want to understand the funding of major events, and if we were not to continue to fund some of those events, do you think we're at risk of losing some of them?
Yes.
What about the ones that we continuously fund for numerous years that seem to be a bit of a mainstay? Do you think we'd still lose them as well?
Yes. At the moment, it is really hard for events to get other sponsorship. I mean, I know that that's an ideal world and that's what people might like to aspire to, but we also see that there is benefit for TDC and Venture Timaru to be continued, to be seen to be supporting these events because it makes other people look to us to attract us, but support on a much lower level. Things like the tennis were supported on a major level because that was the clincher in getting them to come to town in the first place. And the other ones, it is a bit of a sliding scale. It's not supported to the same extent, but when you see the return on investment on an average kind of one, you might be on, that we can measure, $25 to $30 for every dollar of council investment. Things like the South Island Masters Games, it was up to $75 per person. So
I definitely get the return. I'm just wondering about the risk of losing.
Severe
them.
risk.
Okay.
Severe risk.
So that's cool. My next one, which is really controversial, but you know that we're looking to save money. You operate with quite a chunky reserve amount, which for a normal business, I understand the need for. But you come to us every year and go, here's our budget, please can we have this money, and we allocate that to you. Why do you need the reserves, and is it an opportunity for you to set your budget minus the reserves and we only fund that amount?
No, that's fine. I expected the question, so it's all good. I am prepared. I have my piece of paper here.
Same answer I got last year, Nigel.
Sorry?
Same answer I got to the question last year.
No. It could be slightly different. We'll check your memory, Councillor Piddington. We have a reserves policy straight away up front around holding 3 months of our operating budget or operating income in reserves. It's important that we do that so that we operate in a prudent manner, but it actually recognises the many other streams or the other income streams that are committed to and incurred over longer periods as well. So we have our annual funding, but we also have multi-year projects, and some of those, as you will see in our financials, especially in our statement of intent this year, have dropped away. So we have worked tirelessly over the last 5 years to supplement as much as possible the funding, the base operational funding that we receive from council. And we're proud that over the last 5 years, since 2020, where you 100% funded us, that we've received funding nearly 22% more than the total of what TDC has provided us, which is great. Coming back to your question around that, the need for us to hold reserves, we have ongoing commitments like any business. We had it out to 6 months at one stage, and the board and management agreed that we need to pull that back to 3 months. So we have 3 months, which equates to, I think on average, let me find my right piece of paper here. It's about 290,000, okay? So we have ongoing commitments in relation to our normal operations over and above our variable costs. And our reserves at the moment, as at the end of December, that were unallocated sat at about 150,000.
Sorry, the unallocated, because you've got your funding received in advance, so these,
Yeah.
I'm struggling to
sorry,
understand the difference.
If I can take you to the balance sheet on our quarterly report, which is probably about page 8 or 9. If we looks like that. We got it? Okay. So first and foremost, the mistake in our financials is the word un. If you head down to current liabilities, funding unallocated, 401,800, that is allocated. So that is made up from the Regional Apprenticeship Initiative funding that we've received, which hasn't gone out, about 50,000 of the events fund, which as at December had been committed, but it hadn't been paid out because the event hadn't taken place. And then some rats and mice relating to crews in a near city, making it happen, that sort of thing. So when you come down to our equity of 578,000, say 579, 3 months reserves, which is in our reserves policy, our financial policy to hold, equates to about 290,000, takes us down to 289. You take off 128 of that, which is which was our projected deficit for the year, which was to be funded out of reserves, which is some timing, takes us down to about 150, 160, which is what we hold in our reserves, which are unallocated at the moment. The one question, the final point I'd like to make there is that, as has been shown in the past, it's important for us to hold a level of reserves. What that level of reserves is, potentially at times is as long as a piece of string, but it gives us that flexibility to do things really, really quickly without having to come back cap in hand. There is a $200,000 economic development fund that council rolls over each year. The only commitment that we've come to council for with that in the last 8 years has been the commitment you've given us to help support up to 60,000 per annum for the next 3 years, the cruise sector. So aside from that, it enables us to do things like, some of the new events, we've propped some of those ones up out of parts of our reserves, bringing the Kaylee Bell, enabling us to drop everything and sit alongside Prime Port and TDC to really amp up that proposal for Scott Base. The COVID response that we committed to came out of reserves, so it gives us that flexibility. Whether it's 150, whether it needs to be 300, whether it needs to be 20k, I would say that where it's probably sitting at the moment, especially given the fact that we have committed further funds over and above what we've stated there to support and implement the Towards 2050 plan as well.
Thank you.
G'day, Nigel. This one might be for Erin as well. Just in terms of economic development, I know it's controversial, the waste to energy plant in Waimate, but obviously they don't have any land anymore. Do we have any? Is there any interest? Do you think it's fallen over there, we might be able to help? Has there been any, or do we just, as our economic development agency, what opportunities is there?
That's a good curly one too, actually. It's good. But it's all good. When that plant was first mooted, we had quite an open and an informal conversation with some of our largest wasters, and I use that term in the nicest possible way, in our food pro and manufacturing sector, and there was a very muted response and support to it for a variety of reasons. I have personal opinions, but there's an opportunity there potentially, but that would be a conversation that we would need to have probably more in depth with council prior to really pushing the boat out on it. I think is fair call.
Yeah, I guess I would say that given the history of the plant, not only in this region but in other regions, they bigger issues as opposed to land availability.
Yeah, I realise the consent was called in by the government, but I mean, they're going to work through those processes. Similarly, I know there's some fish hooks in the meat processing plant. That's good, isn't it? Fish and meat. But Smithfield, the land that's available, do you have any interest from other parties that come that you might be able to ring and say that land is zoned, you know, for these activities? Are you interested in coming as a conduit?
Firstly, we reached out to Alliance just prior to Christmas, had a good catch up with them at the start of the year, just as they were putting it on the market. The agent, Sam State, we've had numerous conversations with him around supporting, you know, from an information perspective as well. We have looked into the variety of contacts we have across, whether it's aquaculture or cool storage or others. It's a challenging site at best. That said, I spoke to a very interested party today that was put on to me by Sam State, and we're following that up with them as well.
Because I guess the piece of land by State Highway 1 doesn't have the other problems, you know, that on a separate title. So just making sure that we're optimising our opportunities.
I think the challenge we've got is, in some respects, that the vendor is, for obvious reasons, really keen to sell it all as one, as opposed to potentially cutting it up. So, but we're engaged with the vendor and the agent, and as has been seen by the referral through.
Councillor Oliver.
G'day, Nigel, how you going? Look, just one quick question for me. All around the country at the moment, the country's facing energy constraints and costs and all that going forward. Are our businesses in this district facing any energy high winds going forward? Or, yeah, just around not only costs, but actually getting energy and stuff like that, or have we got that all under control?
I think the question came up in your workshop with TDHL. I think there isn't an issue around them getting the power that they need. I think it's been fortunate in the last, well, I suppose one of the silver linings of the economic downturn that we've all experienced in the last couple of years is that some of these businesses have deferred some of their expansion plans, decarb plans, those sorts of things. So it's enabled us all to line up some of the ducks in that respect. So like anything, I think, you know, going forward, you know, we're becoming, excuse the term I used, professionally predatory around business attraction. And, you know, the big things there are land, water, power, workforce, services, not so much in that order. But I sit on the Canterbury Mayoral Forum. There's an energy steering group. We're just finishing completion of an energy inventory, which the report will go to the Mayoral Forum in the next 6 weeks or so, which identifies from a broader Canterbury perspective what are the challenges, the opportunities, right from generation right through to end user. And I haven't seen that draft report yet, but the main thing in there is just ensuring resiliency. We've got that ongoing capacity for growth, etc. And, you know, I understand Alpine Energy are really doing some good work in that space now, which is great.
Councillor Jackson.
Nigel, obviously we've talked a lot about population and about the fact we have an ageing population and the problems that we have in retaining our youth, and I know you've got some programs that you're working with to retain our youth. So where are we at with discussions with the Polytech regarding the sort of courses that may be available for our youth to keep some of them here or attract perhaps some youth from out of town?
We had a conversation, and Erin and I had a conversation with the Polytech CE in Leone just prior to Christmas. And it was really just the first engagement because obviously all the change with Rove, you know, the review of vocational education, the new government came in and threw it all out the door. So we were letting the dust settle a wee bit there, and our approach really was that, look, we've got a significant asset here, and we believe there's a huge opportunity for us to establish in a very much a leading way for provincial NZ, like an educational hub of which ARA are one part of it. Why can't we have some of those entry-level university courses held here, for argument's sake? Again, from a retention perspective, but also an attraction perspective for others to come in. The really interesting thing that came out of it, and ARA are in discussions with the universities that surround us in relation to that. The other thing that came out of it was, we spoke of other providers. There's actually 5 actually, other providers that utilise that site now, which came off the back of COVID. And, the thing that frustrates me the most, and one thing that we're keen to do as the Economic Development Agency, is encourage that group or that education hub that is actually already there to put their head up above the pulpit and say, actually, these organisations are providing these courses here. And it's a simple thing to do, but it hasn't been done yet. So we see, rightly so, through the engagement Tania's had with the Towards 2050, education and workforce is a massive foundation for the future prosperity of this district. And we need to get a fit-for-purpose educational hub that listens to industry, first and foremost, as to what and how they want, the skill sets they want and how they want it delivered, and then implement it, because it has to be it is a strong foundation. So I really appreciate the question, because you're spot on the money. And it's as much, if I can go back to the ageing population, we've got a lot of what I call now walking well, older people that are fitter and healthier than they've ever been, that are wanting to be engaged in our community. So what are those sort of opportunities from an education perspective as well?
We do talk about it a lot, obviously, but it just seems to go round and round and round. We don't seem to get too much traction. So do we have some sort of timeline? Have they indicated what sort of timeline that they could perhaps put in place?
I think it's fair to say that engagement we had with them prior to Christmas, Erin and I, was the first time they'd sort of looked up above the mist that was this vocational change. So a lot of, and I say it in the nicest possible way, the vocational education sector has had a lot of navel gazing and a lot of looking over their shoulder over the last 2 years as their future has flip-flopped. Now that there's a bit of certainty around that, we will benefit from the fact that Aoraki Polytech, I nearly said, ARA Institute is one of only 2 financially viable polytechs, as per the report that came out prior to Christmas, out of the 16. So that, in my view, puts us in a very good position to be able to actually have those conversations and get some rubber on the road. So we are looking to pull together those existing providers, make a bit of noise about that, get a bit of relevance out there, and for business to understand that there is some capability here that can be used, and then step into who else could and should be here. Bringing some of those things like early childhood courses. I understand there's 40 to 50 people from South Canterbury that go annually up to Christchurch, leaving their families, when, courses like that, some of those early degree courses could and should be delivered here. Bring the, not take the mountain to Muhammad, bring it the other way back.
Alrighty, yes, Councillor Pye.
Sorry, I've just been reflecting on your challenge, Di, about we need a hotel. Surely that's on your business, and I'm not looking at you now, I'm looking at Nigel. Surely that's on your business development manager's #1 hit list of new business to come to Timaru.
We completed a high-level update of the accommodation sector, which we distributed to existing developers and interested parties, but we also sent it to at least 4 hotel operators as well. We need one desperately. 4.
Are you knocking on their door?
Sorry?
Are you knocking on their doors?
Yep.
We do have 2. Technically, we do have 2, don't we?
But the issue is of having a greater number of rooms at a consistent level of standard. Like the really classic example is Kaikoura, who've been telling us that their 70-bed hotel has been a game changer for them, partly because they can bring buses of tour groups to town, 40 people, boom, you're all in one place. But if you have a conference facility, even though we can spread them around, but with the hotel, I'd quite like an event centre as well, please. Just saying.
We need a conference facility down on the bay.
That's what I meant, Boothie.
It's ruined your councillor of the day,
I
councillor.
know, I was just going to say, you've done well just to keep quiet. Councillor Booth, in fairness to Councillor Booth, he earned his stripes today, so he would be hard to beat earlier on. We can't tell you just at the moment. It's the big secret. No. Any other questions? No. Cool, thank you. Great report and lovely to see you all. Thank you, Nigel, Erin and I. I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Jackson. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. We move now to welcome TDHL 6.5 and the quarterly report. Welcome, Mark and Fraser.
Your Worship, Councillors, thank you for having us along today. We're pleased to present the TDHL report for the period 1st of July 2024 to 31st of December 2024. I'll just give a brief summary from the cover letter because that covers most of the material items. Fraser will go into a little bit more detail, then we look forward to questions. The statements show that as at 31st of December, TDHL's operational performance is tracking ahead of budget. However, forecast year-end EBITDA is negative to budget due to moving the showground settlement into the next financial year. Further to this, it is now anticipated that incorporated Alpine Energy surplus will be negative to budget. This is a non-cash incorporation, but impacts on the net profit and carries through to the financial performance targets, which are now forecast not to be met. From an activity perspective, LGFA accession was completed in December 2024, representing a significant enabler to TDHL's diversification pathway and ability to pursue new investment opportunities.
Thank you for that, Mark. So just briefly, following on from that, you'll see our KPI financial performance measures at the top of page 2 on the report. We are under those as a result of the incorporation, a non-cash incorporation, but we are on track still to pay the dividend as forecast. So, I welcome questions.
Councillor Booth.
I just see in there you've got a tax liability of, what is it, 900,000, is that right?
Minus. The tax expense of, yeah. Oh, it's negative because of, it's because of the imputation credits, the way they work, or the way they will work when the dividend's paid.
Okay, so you don't actually have to shell the cash out then?
Well, no, we're a consolidated income tax group as well with council, so no.
Councillor Pye.
Just on the Alpine Energy performance, like we've got a reasonably new board there with new members, which look like they've got the right industry experience and qualifications. Have they given you any sort of plan on how they're going to turn this around, or have you asked for one? Or yeah.
We had the Alpine Energy board come and meet with the TDHL board at the last TDHL board meeting, which was approximately a month ago. We discussed the letter of expectation and how that ties in with their statement of a corporate intent. We're still working through with them on the detail of that in collaboration with all the other shareholders. The Commerce Commission discussions are still ongoing at this stage, and that is a top priority. But I think it's fair to say we're giving the new Alpine Energy board some space, underpinned by our letter of expectation, to come to us with solutions to provide sustainable energy in a commercially appropriate way that provides a dividend.
Can I ask a question? Which I shouldn't, because I'm... So, 24, 25, 31st of December, you had $630,000 worth of cash, and you've got other current assets of 1.2 million. What's the 1.2 million? And if you are going to pay a dividend, how do you cash up to the level of the dividend?
So the dividend, because we've moved because the showground settlement has been moved into next year, or next financial year, so there will be a lag between receiving that and paying the dividend. So we will be using debt to cover that. But what I can do is in the next quarterly report, I can provide one of those waterfall graphs which shows what money's coming in from where and how it all falls out to demonstrate the scale of that. But it is a way of bridging that timing difference.
They got an extended payment or something. Is that why is this? Have they not paid you the money?
No, the agreement goes out to September, I think. But we put it in this financial year on the basis that it would coincide with summer construction works, but they just haven't done that, so we'll stick with the contracted date.
You haven't received money, you're not going to receive it till September, or have I confused about that?
We've received the deposit and the balance is payable in September.
Thank you.
I thought I understood the dividend situation, but now I'm questioning myself. In your summary there, you've got pay a dividend to TDC of 1.2 million, and then you're saying dividend to be considered at the end of the financial year. So, and I'm thinking from the TDC side, we've probably got a dividend in our budget. Are we receiving a dividend in our FY25 or not?
Yes.
And we need to consider it because we have to do the solvency test, etc. That's why we need to, yeah.
It's a year since Alpine Energy admitted to overcharging with the Commerce Commission. Have they given any indication of when they think that'll be resolved with the Commerce Commission?
No, they're still working through it with the Commerce Commission. The Commerce Commission has been prioritising the default price path regime for all of the EDBs, which comes into play on the 1st of April, and they've been dealing with the Wellington reduction in staff and Wellington challenges. So it's been a long process with the Commerce Commission. Got to march to their drum, unfortunately.
They're obviously not meeting their KPIs.
I couldn't comment on their KPIs, but we hoped that it would be before now, to be honest. But there's nothing we can do in terms of speeding up the timeframes.
And in Alpine's, their preference, they've been pushing it hard because they want to deal with it as well. If they can get it dealt and resolved with sooner rather than later, it resolves a whole lot of other accounting issues for them. So they are pursuing this actively and strongly.
One last one. Again, similar question that I asked Venture Timaru. The land at Smithfield, I get why you wouldn't want a large chunk of it, but the strip on the facing State Highway 1 that could be used commercially, is that of any interest to you guys? Have you had a thought about that?
We had a think about the whole site. We understand the different packages are there. Fraser did a lot of the due diligence on that, so I'll hand over to him in regards to that specific aspect for development opportunities and the limitations associated with it for us.
Yeah, I guess that portion of land, because we have looked at it in reasonable detail, I guess the underlying zoning of that land's rural, and fronting State Highway, there are restrictions to access onto State Highway, and it is low-lying, so it's having looked at it on balance, we believe there's better bang for our buck to focus on our Linden Street development and the opportunities that are there.
Alrighty, anything further? No? Cool, thank you. We'll move now to the motion, recommendation 6.4. Council receives notes. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Booth, Councillor Burt. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Fraser. Appreciate that. Already, actions register update. We'll just whip through those. Budget reallocation trial still there. Subcontracting across council, it's likely now to be the next meeting, Mr Chief Executive, so that's still to come. Small trades is tied up with that. Where are we? Financial template. Missing a February update on the vertical infrastructure maintenance report. What was that one? Was that tied to? That is on page 85. Oh, that's right. I was just sorry, quick skim.
Thank you, via the chair. The underutilised is actually your divestment.
Yes, I thought.
Which is now a quarterly, and then the small trades and the others have sort of morphed together into the same.
Oh, no, sorry, I'm ahead of you. So 85, vertical infrastructure maintenance report.
So that one, quarterly, because the budgets are changing at the moment, we deferred that to the next meeting just whilst we go through.
No, that's right, just at the update, there's nothing written. That's okay, so it's deferred. No, perfect, thank you, Nicole. So parking report is being done. And then in regard to the NZTA, speaking to council, myself and Chief Executive have a quarterly update, isn't it? And we did have an update recently with that. I think Elliot spoke to some of the challenges in there, so our team are working pretty closely with NZTA to try and get a solution, but I just don't think there's nothing that's going to come quickly. But I'm just not of the view that there's any advantage in putting. I'd just hate to bring NZTA and put them under the microscope. Well, when we are actually working quite closely with them, just questioning the benefit from that when we are having sort of regular updates and the teams are working quite closely together. Councillor Pittingham.
Well, could we add that to the list? I mean, every time I go out, I get hammered about the showgrounds. And I understand it falls in Transit's basket. And while we don't bring it to the forefront, we look as though we're not doing anything.
Yeah. It would be good to get if we could agree some sort of joint update at a point in time with NZTA. That's probably some time away, but...
So Elliot's about to meet with them and establish exactly where they're at, and then once we know that, we're going to form a strategy after that.
Alrighty, and so we'll just keep that on because I think that's important as a reminder because it's obviously very topical to your point.
Sorry.
Councillor Paddington, Councillor Pye.
Sorry, there was just the resolution from the last meeting that's not on the section list that we should probably add around the financial system, and I know we've kind of got coverage of it in ARC, but it was a resolution at the last meeting.
Yeah, no, that's a must. Yeah, so we'll add that. Thanks, Jess. Anything further in regard to actions? Otherwise, can I have a mover for that? Councillor Parker, thank you. Councillor Burt, for the motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So 6.6, appointment of community board member to local organisation. I don't think we necessarily need anyone to speak to that. Our recommendation is that Wayne O'Donnell be appointed as a voting member to the Geraldine District Foundation. Gav, do you want to briefly speak to that? But obviously been through the community board.
Yeah, it was unanimous by the community board that won't be.
Okay, so you have to move
recommendation.
That?
Yeah, I'm happy to move it.
Yeah, cool. Seconder from Temuka, thank you. He was there. Any further discussion? No, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Just an action, obviously, we can let him know. Rangitata Huts Reserve, we've done that, so we can go now to 6.8, which is trade waste charging. Grant and Andrew, welcome. And that's on page 102. It's not 100. I'm slightly out. Alrighty, welcome team. Pass to you to introduce the paper.
Yep. Thank you, Your Worship and councillors. So this paper is regarding the trade waste. In a nutshell, with Smithfield have closed and we have a loss of revenue in regard to trade waste. If we are to maintain our budget targets, that revenue needs to be recovered in some way or some form. So the gap is about $1 million that we're talking about here. We have managed to increase, I guess, the trade waste discharge volumes from other industries, with the surplus capacity, so we've recovered some of that, but we still have this gap of $1 million. So, this report outlines how we develop trade waste, how we charge for it. It's fairly technical, I acknowledge that, but there is some options there that are presented in regard to what we can do. And in a nutshell, those options are basically increase the trade waste charge to recover that shortfall. Second option is a hybrid one of increasing the targeted rate and the trade waste charge, so to basically soften the blow so much to the industries. And then the third option is looking for additional trade waste, expanding the customer base as such. There is some challenges with that because we would need to go out and collect that data and also and analyse what their trade waste compositions are and coming up with. It also means an amendment to the bylaw as well. So, yeah. Is there anything I missed?
I think the other one to bear in mind is if we expand that base, trade waste customer base to go through on the domestic, it lines us up more with what the rest of the country is doing, and it also ties in with the trade waste plans that we've got to develop for the water services delivery plan, so it all sort of marries up together.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it's obviously an opportunity, but it's a bit of a stepped process. Obviously, there's the challenge now, and I guess, the strategy, some time ago is great, and I love the paper actually. I like the technical aspect of it, but I guess it assumes growth, doesn't it? It never assumes that you're going to have someone go backwards in a big hole needing to be filled. I was interested in the trade waste charges comparability to other regions. How do we stack up? Are we aware with other regions as far as similar type waste?
Pardon me. Yeah, we're very much in the middle of the pack or lower. We're at the low end. So in total, so if you look at it as the variable and the fixed charge, in the end it works out at around about $1.10 a cubic metre of discharge, which is pretty reasonable.
There's obviously room to move. Councillor Piddington.
Don't know anything about the technical stuff, guys. That's all down to you. But Grant, I'm never very happy as a ratepayer to hear we're charging at the low end. There's got to be, I guess, first thing is we're going to increase them. We've got to tell them when we're doing it and give them time to adjust their charges. But, we've got to cover the loss somehow. I'm not suggesting a massive increase, but some comparables would be good. And with an option 3, surely we can, if you're a food business, there is a levy or a fee for not being a residential customer that should be levied on all of those businesses because they're basically getting it for free.
I agree with you there. Yes, we do need to expand that trade waste customer base, but just need a little bit of a time. So what we're talking about is sort of a 1-year interim solution just to bridge the gap a bit. Yeah, but just on comment, trade waste it's large industries we're dealing with. They all have costs. They're all always crying poor. So it's always difficult to crank the charges up. They always threaten to close.
If I could just add, the revenue is at 3.7 million for those main industries, so it is a sizable amount of money. And those industries that discharge to the domestic, they pay per pan, so they're not paying nothing, but it isn't directly proportional to, in effect, what they discharge.
Councillor Pye, thanks.
We've done no consultation on this with any trade waste customer. What are the timeframes on this? Because I'm conscious that we make decisions in this room without hearing from the other side of the story. And my preference would be, if we could, have some consultation on this, because $270,000 for one customer, regardless of whether they're an international business or not, is a lot of money.
And that's why recommendation 5 is that we'll actually go out and engage with our industrial and come back in April.
Yeah.
I was focusing on the options rather than...
Yeah, we're seeking, I guess, support in principle of the option, and then we'll go and discuss that with our customers and report back. Yeah.
Councillor Shannon, then Councillor Burt.
Yeah, absolutely. The same as Councillor Pye. It's probably more a warning from me, actually, as we're heading towards the next, putting together the funds for, the plan for the next financial year. That, of course, we're working hard towards a user pays model, getting fees more in line with what they should be. So when you're looking at this, I want to see all aspects of the water business in terms of what we're talking about here, and that does mean even some of the education providers, the likes, when we're talking PANS. But my warning would be that rather than try to replace that lost revenue by charging everyone else to make it up, I would not support it all. That the case has to be, if this is the new revenue model, which is based on what fees and levies would be fair compared with other councils, other jurisdictions, I would be in support of that. But to say we've lost our biggest customer, so all you other customers are going to make up with that, you would absolutely not have any of my support on that. We would have to relook at what our budget is. If that was my budget, I'd be saying, unfortunately, we're making a loss for this until we can attract more business. These are our fees and charges, but we're not going to try and make everyone else out there pay for them because we've lost them. That's my challenge.
I think, just in response to that, I think option 3 is saying we do have a number of non-domestic type industries that aren't paying what they would normally pay somewhere else. So effectively it is broadening the customer base to recover those costs.
And I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying if after we've looked at that, that doesn't make up for Smithfield, it doesn't make up for Smithfield.
So, just clarification there, as far as our operating the sewer system is concerned, 95% of the costs are fixed. So we can't just simply make savings very easily to plug that gap. So it would be running at a loss, yes. And that's something would have to be accounted for in the annual plan.
I don't think it can run at a loss forever. So effectively, I think...
That's not what I was saying, and I didn't say run at a loss forever, and that's when I said we need to be talking to our other agencies, VT, TDHL, how are we going to fill this gap? Because to then say, to go to all the other businesses and say, we're going to increase it this much, without really good consultation, and we're going to be above what everyone else charges, that to me is just a no. I'm just putting it out there.
Someone has to pay though, don't they? We'll go to Councillor Burt.
There you go. That's better. In terms of us being on the lower end, there's so many. Well, I'm asking this as a statement. There are so many variables in terms of trade waste, in terms of the type of waste, its accessibility to where it's at and how it's treated, and the age and scope of the environment and the mechanics of what we have there with our gear. We're on the higher end of that. Is that correct?
Sorry, the higher end.
So we've, I mean, our environment for receiving and dealing with waste is better than most. Would that be correct?
No, it's so the waste. So it's difficult in that you can only really charge for the service that you're providing, and in terms of the industrial waste, we only milliscreen, so it's a pipeline, dedicated pipeline for that industrial, which is then milliscreened, and then it's combined with the domestic for the discharge. So in terms of the treatment that we provide to the industrial, it's just milliscreening. So then charging for either on a BOD, the strength of the waste is very difficult because we're not actually removing any of it. We're not treating any of it. So it does become a little bit complex in terms of what you are able to charge for, because you have to provide a service in order to charge for it.
When you say that we're on the lower end, I mean, the obvious question is that based on a comparison to comparable size councils, or is that just across the board?
So they do the National Performance Review. So that isn't all councils in the country, but it is a selection. And as I said, we are sort of probably in the middle of the pack to the lower end. But it is difficult in terms of, again, us being able to charge for the service in terms of what we are doing, in that we're not treating the industrial waste. We're milliscreening it, so it's then difficult in relation to what you can actually charge for.
Can I ask another question, what might help? At the moment, the industrial waste is paying for that pipe and that system, aren't they? The milliscreen system and the pipe to get it there.
Yes.
And 90% of those costs are fixed.
80 to 90%.
80 to 90%. Will the life of that asset be extended by Alliance being gone? Now, I've heard the answer no, but I'm questioning that again, because if you've got less going through it, surely it's going to have a longer life. So therefore, you can depreciate over a longer period and reduce the costs going through the books and the costs to the industrial users of that system.
Yeah, the answer is no, it won't happen.
It's not the way PE pipe works. We don't have it surcharge going through. It's not under pressure. It's on an open channel, so it's there sitting in the ground. So the waste goes through it or it doesn't. It's still got that life.
Yeah, the life is the same as any other sewer pipe in the district, and generally, 100-year life, yeah.
The difference in the flow with Alliance being in or out would not impact on the life of that pipe.
So where I was getting to then, one of the variables are the other people, or sorry, the other councils, are they treating it to a lot higher level?
So,
because that's a complete variable to why our cost is lower.
So the receiving environments that they're going to make a massive difference on that level of treatment. So, I mean, from previous experience up north, you're paying nearly $5 a cubic metre for wastewater, but that's, going through a lot more treatment process.
There's a lot of councils actually do treat their industrial waste. That's what it comes down to. They have to for their consent. We're very lucky with our consent that we can actually discharge untreated industrial waste straight to sea. Yeah, so very low cost system.
How long's that consent for, Andrew, just out of interest? Because obviously when that stops, we're going to be out of luck.
We've got about another 20 odd years.
We don't need to worry.
And the draft standards that Tomato Arawai just put out, they're right on our current consent limits.
Perfect.
Yeah. Just a supplementary.
Supplementary, and then we'll go to Councillor Booth and I think Councillor Jackson.
I could ask.
Go for it.
So just, can you tell me, and you don't need to do it straight away now, do you have a feel for the Alliance in terms of how much trade waste they were having to remove? Had that escalated quite significantly over the last, say, 5-6 years, or has it been consistent?
No, it's been consistent.
Thank you. Councillor Booth.
Thanks for the report. It was quite insightful. I just thinking about your fixed costs here, and when you connect these people, do they have to pay a connection charge or like a fee that is ongoing once you plumb them up? And it's like a line charge for electricity. You've got a certain amount of capacity, so therefore you should be paying a fee because you've got that capacity on demand. Is that reflected in some of your other numbers?
So we don't have a connection charge as such, but the fixed charge, in effect, what the industry is doing is banking a proportion of the capacity, and they pay that for 365 days of the year. So they are consented a volume, a capacity, and then they just pay for that for every day. And then the variable charge is only related to their actual discharge, because that's associated with the power for the pumping and the disposal of solids.
I've just looked up some numbers, and I've got a study here done by some crowd in Auckland, but saying that a beef plant is basically $2.79 for a volumetric charge. We're at $1.20 or something like that. So I guess that's just a number I've just pulled out, but I'm suggesting that the numbers that you're looking at are not excessive, and at the end of the day, we need to recover the costs. We've got fixed costs on that, so the ratepayer should not bear that burden. It's really down to the people will adjust their business plan, and generally someone that's doing some big numbers like you've just mentioned are probably turning over $100 million. So they will be. It is probably, and if they're operating plants somewhere else as well, they will know that actually is quite good value. So I wouldn't be afraid just to get on and do it.
I should have asked this before the report came. What's the value of the assets?
So we were working that out the other night on a spreadsheet. So yeah, because what we did was we've gone through and looked at the assets, everything associated with the trade waste side industrial line, and making sure that we are recovering the full amount, the full costs associated with that industrial line. And we were recovering at the high end, I have to say. Yeah, but I have got the number in front of me. That's actually what is the value.
Yeah, that's what I was starting to think.
But we are recovering, the full depreciation and everything associated with that.
So the depreciation is, I presume it's got a loan on it, is it?
Sorry?
I presume it's got a loan on the assets. There's a loan.
No, depreciation is just.
Yeah, no, but there's also the assets are probably we borrowed to put them there.
Oh yes, it's got the interest as well.
So there's interest, depreciation.
Yeah, okay.
Pumping
costs. They form the bulk of that fixed cost.
And then apportioning the other.
Alrighty, thank you. I think Councillor Jackson, did you have a question?
Sorry, more of a statement really, just on some of the comments that were made. So I sort of agree with Councillor Shannon. I don't think we can be seen to be penalising one business because another business has left town. I think if we frame it that way, it looks really bad. But then I go back to what Councillor Piddington was saying regarding just how low are our rates. So, we've talked with VT before, for example, about making Timaru your business. So we want to be attracting business here. We don't want to be putting them off by high trade waste rates. But where do our rates actually sit? I'd like a bit more clarity on that, compared to other places around the country. And I know that Councillor Booth has already given us some rates, but I'm not really quite sure what context they're in. But just some more clarity around where the rates are and where we sit would be great, because obviously we're in a situation here, we're trying to crunch numbers down as low as we possibly can. So, losing $1 million ain't going to look good.
And just establish, though, that a variable of understanding where we sit is if we are only treating to the bare minimum, we'll need to know the context for the people we're giving relativity to. Otherwise, you can't just throw on, this person's at $2 something if they are fully treating their waste and things. So you'd have to fish around to find someone who's comparable.
Yeah, and we'll have that for the April meeting.
Councillor Pye.
Sorry, it's probably not actually a question, but I don't think I'd support recommendation 2 here, which is option 2 being preferred. I'd rather just do all the other stuff without us saying what the preferred option is, because it concerns me that in your calculation there, and I probably do have a question here somewhere, is if we increase the sewer rate by $35, and I assume that's for every household that's connected to the sewer, which is, I've got no idea what rates are in Timaru, but say if they're $3,500, that's like a 1% increase. Well, 1% before we've even looked at our long-term plan, and that concerns me. So I would rather have the feedback from industry before giving you the preferred option.
Basically, a 20% increase in the tradeways charge would result in a 9.7% in basically the sewer rate charge, yeah.
Depending on what your total rates are, that could be a 1% for an individual household.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's look to the recommendations then. So, you're saying you don't support 2? No. What about, yeah, okay, because 3 might cover some elements of that, so as to increase the current waste charges and expand the customer base, which would include that consultation effectively with the trade anyway. I think you guys need a number to go and have a conversation with, though, eh? So you need some direction in regard to that. I'm of the view, and this is coming from someone that owns a business that will likely get rated into the future, that actually pan charge should be reviewed, whether in the first instance maybe that's an opportunity to recover some, so adjusting the pan charge to support that, maybe do the numbers on what that looks like, but also we own 3 commercial kitchens. What effect does that have on the sewer? I'm interested to know, because as a user we should pay. That's the theme that we're going through at the moment, so I'm pretty comfortable that we do investigate what those opportunities are, and it should be fair, at the end of the day. But these guys need a result, because they need to go and talk to the Councillor Piddington.
Look, I have concern. I run a business. You come and tell me you're going to put the trade waste up. Guess what I'm going to say? No. To Michelle's point, though, if we don't do anything, it's a % on our ratepayers. That's the reality. So I'm for 2. They've got to cover the costs of what it's costing us. And it's unfortunate, the set of circumstances, but we have to give them a lead-in time. That was my complaint last time. We passed it here. Next day it was out. So in 3 months' time, the prices will go up. Sorry, because most of them will pass it on to their customers. It's just the reality of where we're at. Because to say no means 1% more on our rates next year. And that's not the people that are using this service.
Cool, thank you. So, a question for the officers. The number 4 on the recommendation that council officers investigate the option of expanding, do you think that sort of covers option 3 as well, or do you need some more detail in that? Because it sort of feels like they're a bit of a cross. It feels like they're saying...
I think that covers option 3.
Yeah, I think
that was the intent of it.
Yeah,
recommendation 4 covers option 3.
Option 3, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, got the recommendations up there. Councillor Piddington, do you want to move them as is?
Yeah, I do, because that's the starting point, isn't it, for you guys to go out and have the discussion. Then we'll get the feedback.
Yeah, cool. I'm happy to second that. Yep. Any further discussion? Councillor Booth.
I guess when I go out and put my prices up for my sticks, I don't go and have we don't have a discussion. I work out what I need and I tell them, this is what I need. If you go, you're just going to get a whole lot of bleeding hearts. So we just need to deal with it and actually be strong. Otherwise, we're going to just cause ourselves problems. So I'm quite happy to support that option too.
Alrighty, any further comments before I put the motion? No one? Okay, so motion as stands. Councillor Piddington moved, I seconded. Put the motion now. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Councillor Shannon, you want that recorded? Yeah, and Councillor Pye.
I just have a quick clarification, sorry. The targeted sewer rate in number 2, is that industrial or is that just houses and residential? Because I read that as being...
There's the residential rate. So you're probably looking at option 1 if you want to recover the full amount from the trade waste users.
Yeah, no, I'm not for residential at this stage. I'm just where it falls. Thank you, Michelle.
Right, okay. Well, we might just pause to have a look at the detail of that. We have made a decision. So we can't undo that decision. Okay. Everyone comfortable with that or not comfortable? But that's the decision. You'll go and have a conversation. And there's some other elements of this that we will cover also through the annual planning process. So it's not set in stone. I think it's some guidance at this stage. So thanks, team. Really enjoyed the report. Thank you. LGNZ, welcome. Stephen, so yearly report, you're more than welcome to speak to it, but everyone's had a bit of a read. We do this every year now, so we're pretty familiar. Is there any commentary in around that?
It's been to one, and having been previously fairly negative about the whole lot, I felt it was quite useful and certainly important for networking for council to be involved.
Councillor of the day.
I support it too because of the network it provides and possibly opportunities for staff to network in the same way.
Yep, cool. Any further discussion?
Just to clarify, the cost of 66,000 is just a subscription.
Yeah.
So every time 2 or 3 of you go up to Wellington, there's another.
I think the real cost is probably another 50k on top of that in
Exactly.
all reality. Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Pye.
I chop and change on this every year. I do get value from the training and I do see the value in it, but not enough value. And we're sitting around this room looking for cost savings everywhere, and for me this is actually an easy win. Don't rejoin.
Interesting. Councillor Burt.
No, I agree with it because in this Three Waters environment...
Sorry, you agree with who?
I don't agree with, Councillor Pye. Although she agreed with me earlier today. I'm agreeing with Councillor Pye, with Councillor Booth for the first time in era. No, but in this Three Waters environment, there's so many of us in the same boat, and here's a classic environment where we need to be connected and understand information that will be coming back to us through that forum. So.
From my point of view, currently connecting with some of those ones it makes it a lot easier. Taking account to your concern around costs, though, Councillor Parker.
Do we have a capped expenditure amount for the travel and the accommodation and everything else that goes on at these meetings?
We will have a budget. What that budget is, I'd have to refer to.
It's in your budget.
I know it's in my budget, but I'd have to look to it.
Because 66,000, isn't it? I'm not a huge fan of LGNZ, but if my fellow councillors feel that that is money well spent and it's added value, I'll support it. But I think we also need to be very wise about when we do attend, which ones we do attend, to make sure it is value added and not just a nice to have.
Councillor Jackson.
There is quite a bit of talk in the media at the moment about the level of skill that councillors have around the table, or lack of. And I don't know if I'm conflicted here, because I think I'm booked into one of these courses in July.
Going to the conference, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, you know, personally for my growth as a councillor, I think I owe it to the ratepayers to be doing the best I can to educate myself as much as I possibly can. And I'm coming from the ground floor up. So, yeah, look, I think it's good. You know, maybe we could billet people out or something when we go to other cities or something, I don't know. Youth hostel maybe. But end of the day, yeah, as long as we try and keep those costs under control when we actually get there, I think, yeah, I think they're a vital part of our growth and our future. So, yeah, I'm keen to keep it.
User pays. Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, this is, and I could embarrass you, but I could read out those that have attended, and it's interesting, those that have attended have got different views, and those that haven't attended things are actually supportive and vice versa. But these things are what you put into them as far as what you're going to get out. But anyway, let's have a mover and a seconder, and we'll put it to a vote. Move it. Councillor Burt, second. Any further discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Yeah. Against? Oh yeah, fascinating. Alrighty, so carried. Would you like that recorded? Yes, yeah. That's right, Temuka voted against. Temuka Point, sorry. And Winchester, yeah. Alrighty. Moving on. Thank you, Stephen. Now we go to local elections. I'll let you explain this one, 6.10, but important one to get right.
Through the Mayor, this is the last decision you get to make about the election before you decide whether or not you're standing or not. This is the order that your names appear on the ballot papers. There are three options, just to go through them so you're sure what you're choosing. Alphabetical is alphabetical, or if you make no decision today, that's how it ends up. Pseudo-random is a random order gets selected once and then it appears exactly the same on all the ballot papers. And then properly random order is each ballot paper is different. This only covers TDC and the community boards. You can make their own decision, but all ends up on the same papers anyway. But it's a fairly straightforward. Previously, you've picked random order.
Be obvious, it should be alphabetical order.
Booth, Burt and Bowen might think so. That's only 3 votes.
That's a lot of alliteration.
On that happy note, I'm happy to move status quo, which is random order 3. Councillor Shannon.
Yeah, contrary view, of course, being furthest down the alphabet. And some people would probably say that Michelle and I shouldn't have an opinion.
What is the ballot paper?
Because we went on the ballot paper. But I am absolutely a supporter of completely random in how it worked last year.
You didn't want to go for reverse alphabetical, or no? No, it's not. Okay, you are seconding that, Councillor Shannon. Councillor Oliver, thank you. Any further discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Alrighty, local water done well, TDC and Otago Southland joint group of council, so that is on 116.
Just before you start it, can you change the title, cross out the G and put a D there?
I thought that was the highlight. We're ahead of everyone else. Ours has gone well.
Gone well.
Oh, done well.
So that's my regional accent.
Those that missed it, 611 headline is local water gone well rather than done well. Freudian slip, but well done, everyone.
Yeah. So this is the giving the delegation to the Chief Executive to go into final discussions with the group of the councils to sign the commitment agreement, a draft of which is attached at the end. It's not saying that you sign up for any water service, it's just that you will go into the discussions. The communications will be done in a standard way, and all the group of councils will come to a preferred option that they will share and take out to the public. It just means that you are bringing a cohesive look to the community, and we'll all use our own channels, our own methods of getting out to the community, but it will be a cohesive message across the councils. There are some cost implications there that the Chief Executive might want to talk to. But again, there are off-ramps for you not wanting to partake in the group of five, but all signing this does is offer you, it's you committing to play a fair part in the process going ahead from now. Don't know if the Chief Executive wants to add anything, or the Mayor?
Yeah, it also brings with it. Also brings in it some commitments in terms of their structure, so the Council Executive Group, the Project Steering Group, and also the project team. So it just brings in that those people would be filled in there. So it's the Mayor, myself on the Project Steering Group, and project team will be potentially Andrew.
Yeah, and one thing they did say as far as the agreement that would be signing off would, because Mackenzie's going to have a discussion next week, so it would be potentially with Mackenzie as well. So we would go on the assumption that Mackenzie were in that group at this stage, so we don't have to come back and make a change. Yeah, Councillor Pye.
I'm fully supportive of signing this because I truly believe we need to keep every door open. I understand it comes at a cost. I just tried to save some, but anyway. Will we continue to look at Mackenzie, Waimedi, ourselves and Waitaki as a group? Because you couldn't help but look at those graphs before and go, actually,
that makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense. So I just fully supportive of this, but I wondered, is there other work going to continue?
No, it's a good question. I mean, and we met on Friday with Martin Jenkins, and it does look and make sense. But you've got to have willing parties, and that's the challenge. So I think it's not off the table, but it would be the smartest option to continue with.
I agree, looking at those tables would be a really smart option. I don't know why those other councillors are sitting out, but I think we've got to explore this and give it our best shot and hope the others see the light and join us.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in support of that, and I'd like to move that we actually do it.
Good on you. Councillor of the day, Councillor Parker.
I'm very supportive as well, and I'm happy to second it.
Thank you. Brilliant. Councillor Jepson.
Yes, I'm supportive as well. Although, to be fair, I actually like the natural feel of, like, the rivers, Ashburton, with the Rangitata, and then down south we've got, the Waitaki, and, it all seems to be quite a nice synergy. But I think Ashburton are out of the picture, aren't they? Or Mid-Canterbury's out of the picture?
Yeah.
Totally?
Yeah, for sure.
So they're off the table?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm of the view there's some, I think if we keep an open mind, there could be some synergies with some others potentially as well. So we just have to continue to work through that.
Okay, but supportive of this?
Yep, supportive of that. So, okay, mover, seconder, put the motion.
Just add something to that on your question. Waimati's desperately keen to do a shared service arrangement. So they want to keep theirs in-house, as does Mackenzie, but they want to do a shared service with us. And I think that that's the avenue into exploring that further.
You can't have your cake sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Councillor Shannon.
I just think it's worth adding for the benefit of the community that is watching. We're also supportive. This is going to be one of potentially options that will be consulted on. We're not making the decision that this is.
No, we need to do some work and take that forward to the community on what that looks like as far as cost benefits, etc. Yeah.
Cool. Supportive.
Yep, brilliant. Okay, so yeah, put the motion, no further discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Already, that brings us to the end of public.
Sorry, Nigel.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll raise that before we go in. So I know there's just a question around should EQP be in, or EQPB be in public, but we just need to jump into PX, have the discussion, and then we can bring it out if need be. And I've got some advice here that I'll talk to. But so I'll move us to PX, and then we'll just have a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for the last couple of items. So I'll move us into PX. Can I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Booth. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. 5 minutes and report back at